Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Movie Squib channel. I'm your host, Charlie, and today I'd like to discuss two reviews for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny done by two of my favorite reviewers and how I feel about the movie after I've watched their reviews. Now, let me just start off by saying the reviews themselves are spoiler-free. Actually, all the reviews from Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny at the moment are going to be spoiler-free because they're under embargo. So if you do see one with spoilers, most likely they are going to get into a lot of trouble. Now, the two reviewers that I'm going to discuss is Jahns and Chris Stuckmann. Now, they're two very popular reviewers. They've been around for quite a while. I personally like them because their content feels human. Now, I don't know about you lately, but there's been a lot of channels that do reviews or they talk about movies and TV shows and they feel like they've been taken over by AI or they've just become content farms. Like, they pump out content, but there's no heart to them. There's no feeling. It feels like it was written by a robot, or it feels like it was written by someone and then presented by someone else who doesn't know anything about the movie or film or TV show. And I don't know, it just, lately, I just can't find any comfort in those type of channels. I don't care about the quantity of the content. I care about the quality, and I care that the content feels human, like it feels like it was created by someone who either watched the film or TV show or who actually cares about that stuff. Now, Chris Stuckmann, Jahns, they're both two people who I respect. They've been around for a while. When I see their reviews, I feel like it's them personally who are reviewing the movie. They don't have a team of people who are making up these lines for them. They're just human beings who saw the movie and they're giving you their honest opinion. Now, I will say this. Jahns feels more like an everyman type of reviewer, and Chris Stuckmann feels like he has a more technical knowledge. Or I shouldn't say it feels like, it definitely is. Sure, I don't know much about Jahns himself, but I can see that Chris Stuckmann, he actually has a lot of technical knowledge of these movies, and so his reviews do feel a bit more professional. They feel like they're from the older days of Siskel and Ebert, where they review actual components of the film and not just a good or bad right off the bat. Now, that being said, I feel like my experience when I finally go see Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is probably going to more resemble Jan's review, where he says that the film is just okay. It's probably not as bad as Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but it definitely is not as good as the original trilogy. Now, Stuckmann actually gave kind of the same review, but he did have more of an appreciation for a lot of the components of Dial of Destiny. He enjoyed the director. He felt that Harrison Ford played the role really well, and he was excited to play the role. And of course, both Jahns and Stuckmann enjoyed the score from John Williams, but again, who's not going to enjoy anything from John Williams? The man is an absolute legend. I will say this, Stuckmann felt like he enjoyed the movie a bit more. It felt like he had a better appreciation for the film, which is interesting because if you listen to Stuckmann, it feels like he definitely has a greater connection to Indiana Jones. So the fact that he has a greater connection to the film and to the character, and yet he gave it a slightly better review than Jahns, tells me that the film may actually not be that bad. That being said, I still will not go watch this in the theater, and I'll explain a little bit at the end, but let me just continue on and say this. Both Jahns and Stuckmann, they both praised the score from the film. They both praised the first half of the film. I guess the first 20 minutes of the movie is really entertaining. It's really well done. And both of them actually didn't have a problem with Phoebe Waller-Bridge, which, if you've been on YouTube, you've seen that most of the reviews that say that the movie is woke and all this and that, and it's pushing an agenda, and that Phoebe Waller-Bridge is the problem, those are all from people who have actually not watched the film. I've seen that the people who have actually watched this film either feel that Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character is just a bit out of place, or it was done okay. And then the people who actually hate Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character have not watched the film at all. As to why I actually don't like the movie, it's because of the de-aging. I have a serious problem with movies using de-aging. I think it's an awful visual effects. There is a clear uncanny valley when you see these effects for de-aging, and it is not going to get any better. There is not going to be any scenario that I think where these CGI de-aging effects are going to be completely hard to tell from the real person. I think that it's just not going to be that way. CGI, you can kind of tell most of the time. There's some really good CGI where it's a combination of practical effects and different types of CGI, which you can almost not tell the difference. Like, there's a lot of CGI blood lately where I can't tell the difference between whether it's CGI or whether it's real. And some of them look great, but de-aging and CGI faces, we're not even close to being there yet. Never mind the fact that it just feels unnatural. So for me, that is my biggest gripe that is about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny at the moment. The de-aging, the fact that they use it more than just a minute. It sounds like it's going to be used for even more than a dozen minutes. And that is really worrying to me. I just hate that practice. I hate CGI blood. I hate CGI faces. I hate CGI effects that could have been done practically. But de-aging is one that I just cannot get over. And that is the main reason why I will not watch that film in the theaters, because I know that's going to throw me off. Also, if the majority of people who've already seen Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny have already said that the film is not as good as the original trilogy. So again, if the film is not as good as the original trilogy and the issues with the de-aging, why am I going to spend my time in the theater? This film will most likely be on streaming in about 2 to 3 months, so there's no point. However, I want to say that Stuckmann's review really stuck to me. I do think that he has some really good points about reviewing movies not just as a whole, but reviewing the movie's individual components. I think he really did a great job of breaking down what he did and did not like about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. My opinion is probably going to mirror Jeremy Jahns more, but I really appreciate Chris Stuckmann's review. I really appreciate how he explained that we shouldn't go into these movies and just say they're completely good or bad and look at the individual components and praise them when they should be praised. I do think that there should be more of that, and I'd like to practice more of that. I have to admit, I'm not as technical as Chris Stuckmann. Hell, I don't even think I'm as technical as Jeremy Jahns. I'm just an everyman who goes and watches these movies, and I give you my opinion, and I don't include my stupid politics or the woke and anti-woke or agendas or any of that. I'm talking to you as someone in my mid-40s who has been watching these movies since I was 5 years old, and the way I've been reviewing them since I was in my 20s and 30s is still the way I review them now. I don't have any technical knowledge. I just tell you what I love about the movie. I tell you what I don't like about the movie, and I tell you what works and what doesn't work. And that's it. All movies have some type of agenda. All movies are woke. All movies have a political bias. It's how they're executed that is important. If a movie displays the message in a smooth and organic way, then it works. I mean, if you don't like political movies, if you don't like the bias type movies, if you don't like movies pushing an agenda, then you're not going to like movies like Fight Club. Then you're not going to like movies like Star Wars, like the original Star Wars, because they dealt with stuff like communism and fascism, and movies like Fight Club dealt with corporatism and rising up against that. All those movies have a message. All those movies have an agenda, but it's how they are executed that is the important thing. Dial of Destiny, I don't think there is any type of agenda with that movie. I think that is just a movie that is coming out, and people are very protective of the franchise, and if it's not a good movie, they're like me. They're just like, why come out with this movie to begin with? Leave the franchise alone. Move on to something else. But here we are. I think that it's very admirable that Harrison Ford is very excited about this movie. I think that his enthusiasm for the role and for this movie is something that should be noted, but it's not really going to change my opinion of the film. I think that this film is unnecessary. These no spoiler reviews that have already come out have reinforced my opinion that I just don't think you need to see this movie in the theater to experience Indiana Jones. You can watch it at home when it comes out on streaming, and what you'll probably find is either an okay to good movie and probably not a great send-off to the Indiana Jones franchise. I think that Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade did that, but it's an Indiana Jones movie, so I guess it's something to watch. That's the way I look at it. It's something to watch, it's something to pass the time. I'm not going to get angry if the movie's horrible. I'll probably just be disappointed, and disappointed that I wasted my time watching the movie, but I'm not going to get hung up on it. Now, before I go, I want to just say a few things. Number one, I'm going to leave the links for both Jahns and Stuckmann's review of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny in the description below. That way you can take a look at them, and I encourage you to watch the reviews. Again, they're spoiler-free, and I think they raise a lot of good points, and they may push you in one direction or the other to watch the film. Number two, I don't begrudge anyone for watching this film in the theater. I personally won't watch it in the theater because I don't want to give them my money for this type of film, but I don't think that you should be shamed for watching this film in the theater. Now, I will say this. If you hate these type of movies, if you hate these group of movies that are feeding on your nostalgia, then you shouldn't go watch them in the theater, because the companies that make these movies, they don't care that you hate watching the movies. All they care is that they have your money. If Disney makes back their money on Indiana Jones, they'll make another one. If they don't make back their money, then they'll probably think twice before reviving this franchise. Well, that's it for me today. I just wanted to say that I've got a lot more video content coming out. I've got a new laptop on the way. It's an Alienware, so I can do video processing. Let me just say that right now I'm using a $300 laptop, and I'm using DaVinci Resolve with it. And when I do renderings, I can do a render on a 15-minute video and it will take an hour and a half, and there's most likely a possibility that it'll crash on me. That Gremlins video that I made a couple of weeks ago, it slowed down my computer to the point where it crashed the entire system. So, I have had some issues with my hardware from day one, but I've got some new hardware coming. I've got a new microphone on the way, and I'm hoping to just provide some really entertaining quality content from an everyman like me. I'm just a guy in my mid-40s who just wants to watch movies and talk about them like the good old days. Like when you just say like, oh man, this movie was so great, it had this, and this in it, but I didn't like this part of the movie. Remember we used to talk about it and not get into fights about some type of agenda or some type of political nonsense or some type of cultural nonsense? It just amazes me that we just can't get back to that. But that's what I'm going to get back to in my channel here. We're going to talk about movies like normal human beings, and we're not going to inject whatever hot topic or whatever hot agenda people are pushing today to try to get views or try to get clicks or try to get attention. I don't care about gaining attention that way. I just want to talk to you about these movies and TV shows like I talk to my friends about them. So I'm hoping to provide much more content for you. I've also got my monthly videos that'll tell you what's new on your favorite streaming platforms. So stay tuned, hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and I've got so much great content on the way. Thank you so much for listening, and you all have a lovely evening.